A woman screams in slow motion, clutching her head, blood spraying across a sterile living room as her body crumples onto the floor. A cloud of metallic bees darkens the sky, moving with mechanical precision toward a glass-walled safe house. A teenage girl's selfie, smiling carefree, before her name trends globally under a single viral hashtag, #Death2. Welcome to one of Black Mirror's most chilling thought experiments, Hated in the Nation. A 90-minute descent into a future where outrage is currency, drones are judge and executioner, and empathy dies pixel by pixel. In a near-future London grappling with ecological collapse, detectives Karen Park and Blue Coulson investigate a series of deaths linked to online hate campaigns. Victims, a provocative journalist, a disgraced rapper, seem random until a terrifying pattern emerges. Those targeted by a trending hashtag, #Death2, are dying in gruesome, inexplicable ways. The killers? Not people, not directly, but the mechanical bees meant to save humanity, turned into weapons by an invisible hand. As Park and Coulson dig deeper, they uncover a devastating truth. The real killer is not a hacker hiding behind code. It's society itself, gleefully voting for death with every thoughtless tap on a screen. This episode is often overlooked, sidelined as Black Mirror's long police drama. But that's the trap. Because Hated in the Nation isn't just a sci-fi noir. It's a mirror so sharp, it cuts the hand that dares to hold it. And here's the deeper mystery. If technology gave us the power to kill anonymously, effortlessly, collectively, would we use it? Have we already used it? Charlie Brooker, the creator of Black Mirror, once described Hated in the Nation as an episode that metastasized. It was originally conceived as a much shorter, tighter story, a procedural noir investigating online mob justice. But as Brooker and director James Hawes developed it, the narrative grew uncontrollably because reality itself kept outpacing fiction. By 2015, real-world incidents like gamified harassment campaigns, #Gamergate, and viral death threats against public figures had exploded. Brooker realized he couldn't portray digital hate crimes as isolated freak events anymore. They were systemic. They were everyday. Thus, Hated in the Nation bloomed into a full-blown feature-length crime saga, a hybrid of dystopian science fiction and cold case detective drama. One key production pivot almost killed the episode. Initially, the ADI's autonomous drone insects were supposed to be purely symbolic. Practical effect teams proposed showing victims being killed in abstract, metaphorical ways. But Brooker insisted, no, you have to see the thing. You have to see something that looks useful, safe, inevitable, turn deadly. This decision, making the bees tangible, visible, ordinary, is why the horror hits so hard. The bees aren't monsters. They're helpers. Until they aren't. Just like social media. Another near-abandoned idea was the original ending. In early drafts, Blue Coulson was supposed to be killed during the ADI mass attack. But Brooker changed it, opting instead for a quieter, more haunting closure, where Blue survives and goes underground, continuing the hunt for Garrett Scholes. The world doesn't end with a bang. It ends with trending hashtags and someone still quietly resisting. In Hated in the Nation, director James Hawes crafts a world where terror is not loud. It's clinical. The camera rarely shakes. There are no horror movie jump cuts. Instead, horror oozes through sterile framing, muted palettes, and the unnerving absence of traditional emotional cues. From the opening shots, London is drained of vibrancy. Cold grays, sterile blues, surgical whites dominate. This isn't the future of neon cyberpunk. This is bureaucracy's future. Technology is not rebellious. It is banal. It kills because no one bothered to stop it. The camera often frames characters trapped in glass, boxed by doorways, window reflections, screen interfaces, a visual metaphor for surveillance and social exposure. One key scene exemplifies this. When Blue Coulson first theorizes that the ADIs have been hacked, she stands before a wall-sized glass display. Her reflection fractures across it into multiple ghosted images, symbolizing the fragmentation of personal identity in the digital panopticon. Another masterstroke, the weaponization of scale. The bees are tiny, pathetically small, yet wide shots show them moving en masse, casting shadows like biblical locust plagues. By miniaturizing the instruments of death, Hawes amplifies the dread. It's not a monster you can see and fight. It's already inside the house. While DCI Karen Park is the season lead, it's DC Blue Coulson who undergoes the most profound transformation. Blue begins as a bright, idealistic tech wizard, fresh-faced, eager to make a difference. She believes technology can be bent toward justice. Her faith is shattered piece by piece. First, when she realizes ADIs are surveillance tools repurposed for violence. Then, when she confronts the horrifying scale of the public's complicity, millions casually participated in game of consequences. By the end, Blue understands the enemy isn't just Shoals. It's the invisible majority. It's us. Her final choice, abandoning the system she once served, going rogue to hunt Shoals independently, is a rejection not just of corrupted technology, but of a corrupted public. In a world where empathy has been crowdsourced to death, true morality requires radical solitude. The ADIs are more than plot devices. They are a perfect cultural symbol. Small, useful, omnipresent, until they aren't. In real-world mythology, bees symbolize community, order, and industriousness. But here, the hive mind turns toxic. The bees no longer serve life. They serve rage. Similarly, the hashtag #Death2 echoes the ancient concept of ritualistic scapegoating. In medieval times, crowds gathered for public executions, feeling moral superiority over the condemned. In Hated in the Nation, social media becomes a global digital execution square where hashtags replace stones. One chilling parallel. The episode's mass murder mechanism was inspired by real predictive policing algorithms, which, by profiling individuals based on online activity, assign threat scores eerily similar to death votes. The future didn't need tyrants. It just needed retweets. At first glance, Hated in the Nation looks like a standard detective story. Murder, investigation, culprit, resolution. But beneath the surface, the structure operates on 3 interwoven timelines, each mirroring a psychological stage of guilt and collective denial. Present timeline. Park is recounting the events to a government inquiry panel. This sets a retrospective, confessional tone, as if society itself is on trial. Past timeline. We experience the investigation alongside Park and Blue. Here, the viewer participates in the gradual revelation of complicity, moving from outrage, how could this happen, to horror, how did we let this happen? Implied future timeline. In fleeting, chilling hints, we realize the system remains intact. The ADIs are still operational. Public outrage has moved on. Nothing was fundamentally changed. This 3-layered structure doesn't just tell a crime story. It simulates collective psychological defense mechanisms. Denial, it's just online talk. Minimization, it's just 1 or 2 bad apples. Displacement, let's find a scapegoat hacker. By the time the credits roll, the audience, like society, is left wondering not how a system collapsed, but how a system survived collapse by erasing its victims. Director James Hawes is best known for prestige TV, like The Crown and Doctor Who, but in Hated in the Nation, he executes a subtle stylistic coup. In The Crown, Hawes used lush lighting and regal framing to convey institutional power. In Doctor Who, he employed kinetic camera work and saturated color for fantastical energy. Here, he weaponizes banality and flatness. Every room looks the same: beige walls, gray offices, endless screens. The horror arises from contextual collapse. A place where a murder scene looks identical to a customer service call center. Key breakthrough. Hawes deliberately avoids traditional sci-fi visual cues. No holograms. No flying cars. This aesthetic choice roots the terror not in a distant future, but in a terrifyingly recognizable present. The dystopia isn't coming. It's already been installed through subtle UX design and market convenience. Critics remain divided on Hated in the Nation. Some praise it as Brooker's most essential social commentary, arguing that its directness forces uncomfortable introspection. Others accuse it of heavy-handedness, claiming it lacks the ambiguity that makes other Black Mirror episodes endlessly debatable. Key points of debate. Moral clarity. The episode offers a very clear stance. Online mob justice is real, toxic, and deadly. For some, this lack of gray area weakens its narrative complexity. Structural bloat. Some critics feel the 90-minute runtime dilutes tension, turning what could have been a tight psychological horror into a sprawling police procedural. Yet defenders argue, in an era of weaponized outrage, subtlety isn't virtue. Warning loudly is the only responsible art. On the surface, Hated in the Nation appears to be a story about the dangers of online shaming. But if you dig deeper, the true background is ecological and infrastructural collapse. The mass extinction of bees, a real-world crisis, isn't just window dressing. It signals a civilization already in freefall. Nature has failed. Technology has patched over the failure. Now technology is weaponized against the society it was meant to save. This framing reveals a profound anxiety. Modern systems, ecological, technological, political, are so interconnected that failure in one domain metastasizes into others. There's no isolated tech problem. There's systemic rot. This diagnosis aligns with real-world phenomena. Studies show that social ecosystems online, Twitter, Facebook, become more radicalized and unstable when real-world ecological, economic, or political stresses increase. In Hated in the Nation, the ADIs don't simply malfunction. They evolve into perfect mirrors of societal hatred. The moral engine of the story is not Catch the Hacker. It's the unraveling of Blue and Park's assumptions about human nature. Initially, the detectives and the audience operate on conventional logic. There's a murderer. There's a method. There's a motive. But as the investigation deepens, these assumptions implode. The real method is democratized violence, mass-voted executions. The real motive is not hatred per se, but thoughtless complicity. Blue's arc reveals this most starkly. At the start, she believes systems protect people. By the end, she understands systems amplify what people already want, including cruelty. Park's more cynical perspective, people are basically monsters given the right incentive, gains chilling credibility as the body count rises. Thus, the ultimate crime isn't technological. It's sociological. The Hive didn't go rogue. It simply obeyed. Hated in the Nation operates as a grim parable about distributed violence. You didn't pull the trigger. You just clicked the hashtag. But in a hyper-connected system, micro-actions aggregate into macro-atrocities. This echoes Hannah Arendt's concept of the banality of evil. Ordinary people committing atrocities not out of monstrous intent, but out of thoughtlessness, routine, or careerism. In Hated in the Nation, mass murder isn't plotted in smoky rooms. It's crowdsourced, gamified, and sanitized through screens. Most chillingly, there's no catharsis. The victims' deaths don't spark revolution or change. They simply fade out of the feed, replaced by the next trending topic. If the original sin of humanity was knowledge, then the sin of the digital age is indifference by design. When Hated in the Nation aired, reactions polarized dramatically, and the divide was telling. Victims of online harassment hail the episode as brutally authentic. Casual social media users found it overdramatic or unrealistic. This split is crucial, because it mirrors exactly what the episode depicts. Those closest to the system's violence recognize its reality. Those benefiting from or indifferent to the system dismiss it as fiction. The episode predicted, with frightening precision, how future digital scandals would unfold. Mass shaming campaigns escalating without accountability. Doxing and cancel culture normalizing mob behavior. Tech platforms responding with too little, too late, because outrage boosts engagement. Even among critics, the reaction exposed an uncomfortable truth. It's easy to condemn a villain. It's harder to recognize ourselves in the mob. Who bears responsibility in Hated in the Nation? On the surface, Garrett Scholes hacks the ADIs. He's the immediate villain. But dig deeper. The government funded and deployed mass surveillance tools without safeguards. The public gleefully participated in the game of consequences. Tech companies profited from outrage amplification. Scholes is a symptom, not a cause. He didn't invent public cruelty. He simply reflected and mechanized it. Thus, responsibility is distributed across governments, corporations, and individuals. This is a terrifying vision of guilt. Not a singular mastermind pulling strings, but millions of micro-decisions, accumulating into genocide. In this landscape, ethics becomes no one's job, and thus no one's burden. Perhaps the most chilling aspect of Hated in the Nation is this. No one designed the system to kill. No one ordered the deaths. Each component, ADIs, hashtags, user behavior algorithms, operated as intended. Yet the emergent outcome was mass death. This is a classic case of moral untraceability. Each actor can plausibly deny full responsibility. Yet the cumulative system behaves immorally. This erasure of moral causality is exactly how modern atrocities occur. Drone strikes authorized by algorithms. Hate campaigns driven by engagement metrics. The film forces us to confront an unsettling possibility. In a world optimized for efficiency and virality, morality isn't just ignored. It's systematically deleted. And worst of all, no alarms go off, because the system thinks it's working perfectly. When Hated in the Nation aired in 2016, it seemed like speculative fiction. In 2025, it reads like news headlines. Social media fuel mob justice has become a daily occurrence. Viral outrage campaigns, cancel culture, escalate in hours, leading to firings, doxing, and death threats. Algorithms amplify anger because it generates higher engagement metrics than empathy or reason. Autonomous drones for surveillance and policing are no longer sci-fi. Police departments worldwide now deploy facial recognition drones. Military forces use AI-targeted drones capable of decision-making without human confirmation. Predictive algorithms assign threat scores in fields ranging from policing to insurance to employment, eerily echoing the ADI targeting protocols. The most chilling parallel? Mass outrage is now a service economy. Outrage consultants, political operatives, and marketing agencies weaponize viral hate for profit and influence. Thus, Hated in the Nation didn't predict a dystopia. It reported on an early stage one. Does the episode offer hope? Barely, but it hints at survival strategies. Systemic transparency is crucial. Tech companies must be legally required to disclose how engagement algorithms prioritize content. Black box decision-making by AI by platforms must be dismantled. Algorithmic empathy should be explored. Platforms could reward de-escalation, compassion, and bridge-building interactions, not just viral anger. Civic inoculation is vital. Media literacy must include education on viral outrage cycles, manipulation tactics, and emotional regulation. Treat engagement manipulation as a form of digital pollution. In short, if we engineered a world optimized for rage, we can and must re-engineer one optimized for empathy. Amidst the bleakness, one spark remains, Blue Coulson. She refuses passive complicity. She refuses comfortable nihilism. She disappears, not in defeat but in defiance. Her rogue mission to track down Garrett Scholes symbolizes something critical. Resistance doesn't start with mass movements. It starts with one person refusing to pretend everything is fine. In a world designed for indifference, even a small act of persistence, refusing to click, refusing to rage, refusing to forget, becomes revolutionary. Thus, Hated in the Nation isn't just a warning. It's a recruitment call. Join the last generation that still remembers how to care. Unlike episodes like San Junipero or Nosedive, which spawn memes and aesthetic fandoms, Hated in the Nation triggered a quieter, deeper ripple within academic, legal, and tech ethics circles. The Hated effect. Some tech ethicists coined this term to describe how systems designed with benevolent intent, like pollination drones, can be hijacked for mass harm when safeguards are neglected. University courses. At institutions like NYU and King's College London, Hated in the Nation became required viewing in courses on media ethics, digital sociology, and AI governance. Policy discussions. Think tanks cited the episode when drafting preliminary ethical guidelines for AI-driven autonomous weapons, using it as a pop culture case study of distributed culpability. Online, the episode spawned niche memes, notably the phrase, "death to fatigue," describing emotional burnout from relentless online outrage cycles. In a world obsessed with trends, Hated in the Nation didn't trend. It infiltrated the serious conversations that decide future laws and technologies. If Hated in the Nation haunted you, here are lesser-known but thematically resonant films you must watch. The Circle, 2017. Surveillance Society Disguised as Community. How Voluntary Transparency Becomes a Cage. Anon, 2018. A psychological thriller exploring identity collapse under media exploitation, decades before social media existed. The Cleaners, 2018 documentary. Real-world content moderators reveal how the internet's facade of civility is built on invisible psychological labor and emotional ruin. For those who want to dive even deeper into the philosophical and socio-technical undercurrents of Hated in the Nation, here are essential book recommendations. Weapons of Math Destruction by Cathy O'Neil. How opaque algorithms reinforce social inequality and perpetuate systemic injustice. The Cybernetic Hypothesis by Ticken. A radical examination of how control systems shape society, not through overt oppression, but through feedback loops and optimization. The Crowd, a study of the popular mind by Gustave Le Bon. A classic exploration of how individuals lose moral agency within collective behavior, frighteningly predictive of online mob dynamics. We are all part of this. Every retweet, every hashtag. Karen Park's bleak confession during the inquiry is the soul of hated in the nation. But let's push it even further. We didn't build a killing machine. We built a mirror. And the monster we see was always there, just waiting for a reflection. In the digital age, accountability isn't erased by ignorance. It's outsourced by design. We didn't lose control. We delegated it to algorithms, to virality, to the cold math of outrage. Let's imagine an alternate hated in the nation. What if, instead of anonymous hashtags, the ADIs required users to manually select victims? What if you had to click confirm kill with your real name attached? Would the bloodlust still spread like wildfire? Or would the illusion of innocence collapse when confronted with visible consequence? More dangerously, if a system offered you guilt-free violence, could you be sure you'd refuse it? An early draft of Hated in the Nation included a chilling post-credits scene. A new model of ADI is shown being released. It carries emotion suppression modules designed not to eliminate threats, but to calm populations during riots. The implication: control doesn't end with silencing enemies. It evolves into pacifying friends. This scene was cut for pacing reasons, but the thematic seeds remain. Moreover, Charlie Brooker hinted in a 2018 interview that mass, from Men Against Fire, and ADI networks exist in the same expanded universe. Meaning, the war for your mind and your consent has only just begun. Now it's your turn. Drop one emoji in the comments that captures your feeling after exploring Hated in the Nation. Was it fearful face terror? Exploding head mind blown? Crying face sadness? Face with steam from nose anger? Brain awakening? Your emoji is your mirror.